Daniel, let me start with something that I'm really connected with. JP Morgan spends $9.5 billion a year, right, on technology.
Yeah. So more than that.
But how do you divide that spend between run the business and change the business? You know, and which are your biggest priorities for JP Morgan?
So, yeah, we do spend at the moment around $9.5, $10 billion a year. And there is probably a bit artificial definition of run the bank and change the bank. How we do it, 2/3, 1/3 on the change the bank, based on that definition. But for me, what is most important is how the challenge that we have in transforming the technology of a company that has such a long history, where we still, some of the applications that we run, they're run in mainframes and they've been written in COBOL, all the way to modern technology that we run on the cloud. So how these $10 billion or $9.5 billion can produce a higher output as we standardize and modernize the stack of applications in the company is a real challenge. Because at the moment, yeah, we're spending a lot of money, but that money, in my view, is not producing what it should produce. I think that it's as we modernize and investing in the right things that we give the developers a better environment to be more productive, as we continue standardizing and modernizing the stack, is what is going to be the most important challenge going forward. So do more with the $10 billion that we have. And if we need to invest more, the company is perfectly profitable to invest more, but really to get more productivity out of that is extremely important and the key of the strategy here.
Yeah, it makes sense. But, you know, talking about technology, and the big question here is, you know, do you see technology as an enabler for other competitors to come and eat your meal? Or do you see technology as, you know, as something different? How you see technology? Do you see technology as the place where new people can come and compete with you, you know, hardly?
Yeah. Clearly, it is possible that they can come and compete if we don't do a good job. So if we sort of sleep at the wheel, so the world will sort of run us over. I think that in the piece of the bank that I run, which is the more wholesale part of the business, I think that the probability of any fintech organization to come and cut into our margin, that they are really tiny and the business is extremely complex and global, is a bit more difficult. So I think that what we are seeing is more fintech companies trying to use our distribution, our platform, and provide some of the services that we can choose to develop ourselves, or if they have already developed, to use them and have access to the thousands and thousands of clients that we have around the world. In the retail space, the story is a bit different. I'm not too concerned about fintech. I am more concerned about the role that the big platforms could play there, the Amazons and the Googles and the Facebook of this world, that if we are not careful, they could create a layer on top, and then banks will end up running the pipes, and they will produce the client experience, and they will take the profitability. So how fast do we move in the retail space, how fast in both sides, how to create an amazing client experience that really will stop clients to go to look an alternative is very important. So how fast and creative the organization is to put ourselves in that position is really key.
So knowing some of those companies from the inside and you know, having friends in some of those big marketplaces, you know, how you can stop them? Because they have the real connection with millions and millions of consumers every day. Is there any way that you can stop them?
Well, we have connections with millions of consumers too.
Yeah,
so
right.
We have 95 million clients in the United States in the retail space, and in the wholesale space, we have by far a better connection than they would ever have. So it's possible. I think that what we need to do is not to to get concerned about it and do what is possible to do. So we have all these clients, we can do a lot of things with them. We need to make the client experience excellent. The clients can do a lot of things through our platforms, and then it may be no reason for that. And I think that there is a point where we have the challenge of facing a very, very tough regulation, and they are not regulated at all. So the moment that they start getting close to what we do is probably a moment where the regulator will say, well, so we are super regulating this sector for a reason, and we are giving zero regulation to this. If these guys are doing more or less the same, this is not the safe way to run the environment. So that may change. So I think that on the wholesale business, I really feel very good about our hand. On the retail space, probably banks are still running a bit from behind, and we need to really accelerate investment to really compete effectively.
We're talking about technology, and having more and more technology in general creates more and more exposure to cyber attacks and situations like that. And we have seen the Equifax case, and with all the bad consequences around that. How focused is JP Morgan on this issue? How you are tackling the problem? How concerned you are about that? And what do you do to avoid that?
Yeah, well, we are very concerned. And I think that probably the environment that we have put in place is towards best in class. We spend probably heading towards $700 million a year in protecting the environment from fraud. We do a ton of work and applying artificial intelligence and new technology to protect the clients itself. Not just about that if they had malware in their computers, but if there are activities that they may be doing that they don't know that they are doing, like in many cases, we kind of block very close to 100% of fraud that the clients don't know they have, and when we call them in many cases, they tell you it's a perfectly good payment in the payment space, for example. If a perfectly good payment, just go ahead. 10 minutes after, they realize that it wasn't a perfectly good one. So it's very interesting, and we are constantly under attack, constantly. The key here, for what we know, we are so much deep into what is going on that what we know, we are very well protected. The issue is if they are the speed at which we developed our protection and the speed at where the bad actors, they develop their attacks. So you need to continue investing. One thing that is very good that is going on is the cooperation between banks on this space. Banks, and here in the US probably is the best place in the world about this, where shared information, banks, the 8 big GSIB banks, the main infrastructure, companies in the US like stock exchanges and clearing houses and all that, and the agencies, how they create the environment to share information to make sure that if someone detects anything, everyone immediately is aware of it. So therefore we can protect ourselves better. Other countries are a bit far behind from where the US is. The UK may be the one that is closer to the US, and the other piece that is very relevant, the standards that we need to comply from the regulatory point of view is totally different in every country we operate. So to really improve the share of information for the industry globally to protect themselves and having standards that apply globally is what it needs to happen, and it hasn't happened yet, but we are probably trending towards that.
Amazing. Let's talk a little bit about the subject of the whole gathering today, which is artificial intelligence. And there has been some media out there talking about you using artificial intelligence on trading and also on some paperwork, internal paperwork. If you need to balance between applying artificial intelligence to improve the consumer experience or the customer experience against applying artificial intelligence for internal process, which would be your thoughts?
I think that it will be a mix of both. So I think that where banks are over these days, so we all have our groups and we are developing some tools and in trading, in many places, that there is still probably in a prototype phase. So we are doing some cool things, but they are little things. And I think that what is going to have to happen going forward is that how do we use that technology to really be transformational? And I think that that transformation will be in the way that we serve our clients and also in the way that we do things more effectively. And I'll give you an example. We have tens of thousands of people in our company in operations. A big percentage of what these people do in a world that most of what we do is straight through processing, is not process, is responding to clients' inquiries. And it may be that a transaction is booked twice, or there's the wrong zero, or the wrong price, or whatever it is. The process, and we are working on this, the process of when you receive the email from the clients, or the clients call you, and all going back and forth in different groups to respond to that inquiry is extremely ineffective. So today, clearly, one of the things that we could do, interpret what the client wants. Mm-hmm. So by natural language, and we have really made a lot of progress on that. So getting the machines to look to that transaction into a different systems, get to the machine to understand that if this transaction was duplicated, what the problem was, correct the problem, and go back to the client and tell them it's all solved. So a lot of that can be done without people. And then you're probably some very, very complex issue needs to be escalated. But instead of having tens of thousands of people doing that, we could have a lot less. So that will be pure and efficient and a better client experience because the response will be better. In other cases, like, for example, more and more we are using machine learning, artificial intelligence to make algorithms execution in trading smarter and correct and learn of behavior in markets and really do a better job. So that is happening too. That will improve our top line. And it will improve the quality of execution to our clients. So when you go piece by piece across the company, you have almost in everything that we do a way to do it more efficient and produce a better client experience that in some cases will increase the top line, and in most of the cases will really reduce the cost of what we do today, how we do it. So it is we have done a ton of work in reducing expenses like every other company. I think that artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all these new technologies will help us to move the needle. That is not the obvious thing that you can do. It's transforming how we do it, and that will happen in the next several years. So for me, it's crucial to get the talent to be able to do projects that move from being something cool to being something transformational.
Absolutely. You said before that, getting efficiency on all this process is one of the key ideas. Mm-hmm. And there's the World Economic Forum is forecasting like 5 million jobs that will be lost, by 2020 in the hands of artificial intelligence, and other people that, like Elon Musk talking about. I was talking today in the morning, talking about that at some point computers will take over controls over humans. On the other side, you have, Mark Zuckerberg saying, no, this is great, and we will have, a much better humanity. On which side you are?
And in the sign, the machines will take over humans, probably not. But I am concerned about the dynamics that what is going on in the world, that an unfair distribution of the income that is being more and more pronounced in the last several 20, 25 years. Because it's essentially related to a couple of things, like globalization that has nothing to do with technology is good. So 1.5 billion people in the developing world, now they are having a better life. So that what has produced is a lot of unhappy people in the developed world. So that's why you have people voting for Trump and Brexit and things, populism popping up pretty much everywhere in the developed world, because there are these sort of middle class that have been disenfranchised and they haven't seen any improvement in their life in the last 20, 25 years. Technology is great, and it shouldn't be stopped, but technology, if anything, is going to really make that situation more pronounced. So the distribution of income will get worse. Computers will replace the job of certain people, and those people, at the moment, as society works, they haven't been retrained. So they become obsolete to the new world. So that cannot continue, because if we keep going this way, it will be a social revolution here. Because when people lose the hope to having a good job and progress, they do what they are doing, and probably worse.
But don't you think there's another answer to all that problem, which is at some point productivity gains will be so big that those productivity gains could end up allowing you to pay the same salaries
for working less.
For working less.
That's the issue.
The same amount of people.
That's the issue. I think some way or the other, the world have to find a way to distribute the income in a more fairer way than what is happening today. So we may need to work 3 days a week. I don't know.
But the last time I said that in front of our employees, they all applaud.
Yeah, no, I know.
But look at how they are reacting right now.
Yeah. So it's all fine. So, but this is an important issue, and if being left alone, the outcome will not be good. The outcome will not be good. I think that governments have to think about that. The private sector have to think about that, and a solution needs to be done, because if not, so Trumps and populisms and all these kind of things are going to be worse and worse as time goes by, and all these great new technologies, rather than help, they will become the trigger for this type of event. So,
yeah, I think in my perspective, humanity have always been accommodating itself to new realities each time they have to, and they always survive, and we always find out new ways to do interesting things. So I'm on the hope side, not on the.
No, I'm on the hope side too, but I think that is something that you need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, if
basically,
we don't,
we are the owners. We are the owners of that future.
Yeah. And governments have to take a look at that too.
Exactly right. So, in your view, what's the biggest tech opportunity for the financial industry, or for JP Morgan? What's the biggest disruption apart from artificial intelligence that is happening right now?
I think that the blockchain and distributed ledger, I think that it will play a big role. In my view, we developed Quorum, so there is one form of distributed ledger that is being developed by us. It's an open source but essentially took the base of the technology behind Bitcoin and make it more applicable of what we really need, which is something that moves faster and can process a lot more rather than the slow process of Bitcoin. So in many things, in payments, and we are doing a couple of things, of many things, but some of them is to really work in replacement all the internal messaging system for payments, that instead of using Swift, to use a distributed ledger. So we have a new payment system that we are deploying around the world, and as it's deploying this, the communication and payment messaging, it will happen in this internal blockchain. And hopefully, then other banks do the same and connect, and then we, instead of sending SWIFTs all over the place, with the risk that entails, we can communicate in that system and have a perfect auditable record of everything we do in a very effective way. Settlements in general is already a reality in CDS. We're working with loans. Settlements of everything that we do, distributed ledger will play a role. I think that will transform some of the business we do. One of the business that we do is custody the securities for clients. So and then we provide a bunch of services around that. I think that probably 10 years from now, the important bit will be the services that we provide around, rather than custody in itself, because you can argue that you can put all this in a distributed ledger where you don't need a custodian anymore. You have a ledger that really gives you what you have and is perfectly reconcilable and all that. So I think that is it is a reality today. It's not a reality of the scale that it should be, but I'm quite hopeful that it will be.
Let's open for some questions. So I will ask one more, and then we'll start with questions. So JP Morgan has consistently ranked among the top 10 employers and as an employer brand globally. And today you're fighting against the Googles and the Amazons and all those companies that has very attractive value propositions for employees. How you keep on updated on that? How you compete on that landscape?
Well, so there is one thing. In whatever sector you are, if you are towards the top of the pile, you will attract talent. So if you are best in class on what you do, people will come and want to work with us. But when we talk about so the Googles and the Amazons and all these people, what we are finding is very attractive for graduates from universities to go and work there is quite attractive. So in that space, at the very beginning from graduates, is a lot of competition. We don't have lack of graduates that they want to work for us. We get, just for the corporate investment bank, around 50,000 applications a year around the world, and we hire 2,000. So out of 50,000, you find very, very good 2,000. Where we have a great experience is more in technology, is more on the more experienced developers. So what these companies like the Googles of this world and all those, they are just becoming so big that for some of the developers, they are constrained to such a narrow field within those companies, and then they see a company like us, where we need a full transformation in everything we do and how we do it. We need a whole modernization of our technology stack. Is very appealing. So we've been hiring plenty of people from all these companies to really help us in transforming JP Morgan. And they find the field a lot more interesting, a lot wider, because the challenge is a lot bigger than when you are going to do the next 0.1% of a great technology stack and a great service as these guys have. So we don't have a lot of problems with talent. I think that when you go down the scale and you go to medium-sized banks, and that where probably you're going to start struggling with attracting talent. But if you are one of the top in your sector, it will be fine. But we really pay a humongous amount of attention on how we really attract the best possible talent that we have. One more comment on that. I also very, very conscious that not everyone would want to come and work in a bank. So we have an in-residency program where we expose problems to fintech, small fintechs or medium-sized fintechs, to really come and provide a solution for us. And then we partner with them, we create a safe environment for them to operate, and it's another way to have access to talent. To use company like yours, that you have a great talent, to help us to develop things is another way to add talent. So I don't think that you can, in this era, to only constrain to what you can hire. You have to really try to find, in different ways, the best possible mix of talent. Some you hire, some you contracts, some you partner with, whatever it is. It just, the mix is what really interested me, and we need to have the best possible mix.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And on top of that idea, when we're talking about a company like Globant, have like many different dimensions in which people can operate. They can change industries, they can change technologies, they can change locations, they can change within the same industry to different, customers. So there's a lot of ways to compete with those big motors. So totally agree with you about that. So questions from the audience? Ale?
Water.
You mentioned, Daniel, that you were a little bit disappointed is not the word, but concerned about the speed of development within the bank in terms of technology and the speed that you need to change things internally. And then you explain about the challenge in retail vis-a-vis the rest of the business. My question here is, if you were to rate how your IT vendors are helping you in terms of this digital transformation, it's not that I want names, just in terms of the level of development of the IT vendors that are helping JP Morgan, what would that be?
I think that our biggest challenge is how fast we can, as I said, put ourselves in a position where $1 of investment in technology produces the value of $1, equivalent of what would be in one of the technology companies. And the main challenge that we have, because we haven't been very good at standardizing processes. If you're at Google, as you well know, so if you're a developer, 90% of what you want to do is you take it from the shelf, and then you add the next layer. When you're at JP Morgan or Bank of America or Citi, in some cases you can do that. In most of the cases, you need to build everything from zero. So you ended up redoing the whole thing. So how companies like yours and others are helping us to navigate that transformation is very important, because that essentially what is going to give us a lot of more output for the $10 billion. But that will require, as I said, a long process, which is not very easy, of thousands of applications being rewritten and adjusted to new technology. So it is. That's why I don't care where the talent is coming from. I just really care about having the best possible talent from providers, vendors, or internal to really accelerate that transformation.
Taking more into a personal matter, an easy one.
Yeah.
What's the biggest mistake you have made in your life?
Oh, I have
Professional life. No. Professional
I
life.
have made so many, but essentially, it is mainly into you can, rather than talking about specifics, I will talk about one specifically, but essentially sometimes knowing that it's about people, because essentially these companies, you're as good as the group that surrounds you. So leaving people in job knowing that it was the wrong job for too long. Or some cases, misreading what the problem is in a particular business. I'll give you an example. In one of the business, I'm not going to mention which one, but one of the big business that I run, in the last 5 years, I changed the head of that business, someone who reports directly to me, 3 times. And I tell you what happened there. The first person I put it there, I got very involved, and I was totally wrong, and he was totally wrong about the assessment of what the problem was. I thought it was a cost issue, and the business was fine, and the stack in technology infrastructure was fine and all that, and it was totally wrong. After a while, I realized, and then the person that I put there, it wasn't a transformational person. It was someone who was a good operator that was going to reduce cost. That was a mistake. Then I realized what the problem was, that the issue was the whole business did a massive transformation, and cost was a consequence of that. Cost reduction was a consequence of that transformation. I put someone else, which I saw it was going to do that. The organization very quickly imposed so much fear into that person that totally paralyzed him from changing anything. So they convinced him, and these are very senior, very smart people. They convinced him that the minimum thing that you touch, the whole thing would crumble down. So then I realized another mistake. I misread the reaction from the organization. So now I have a good assessment what it have to be. I put what I thought it was the right person, but the organization worked in a way that really paralyzed that person. And then I put my third candidate, that is really the person who has transformed the organization.
He's still alive? Yes.
He's still there and doing very well. And I'm not going to fire him. But the first thing he did, and we decided that before, that we were going to fire the whole management team that it was there before. So there is no more risk. We will take, if everything crumbles down, I will take the risk. Because if I don't, the thing will crumble down for sure. And that's what happened. So now, the way that business was transformed, we are changing the whole technology stack. But beyond that, that group moved from hoping that they were going to pitch for a business that we have and not lose it when we do our, when the companies put these contracts for bidding again, to an organization that feels that no matter what, whatever deal we compete with, we are going to win. And this year, we didn't miss a single deal. We won every single piece of deal that we wanted to win, we won them all. So it's a totally different thing. And then it took me a while to get to the right place. But the lesson in these things is like, and this is like, I'm coming from markets, so I was a trader many, many months ago. So when you have a wrong position, you take the loss, and then you move on. You don't hope that things are going to play well. And I think that here I was, through the process, trying to transform this thing. I feel very good about that, but it was through many mistakes.
It really never happened to me.
No, I know, I know.
So let's open up for questions. Gilbert.
Daniel, you just spoke about not missing any single deal during this year.
Any single deal,
any single deal that you wanted to win. I guess that having different sort of customers, that may have required a lot of adaptability to what every customer actually was looking from JP Morgan. What lessons do you have on how to drive?
For me, it's a matter of discipline, because we haven't, in that particular business, we haven't finished redoing the whole technology stack. So there is a lot of manual process that we will replace. But so then we choose what we wanted to win, because we didn't add complexity to an organization that is in the middle of a massive transformation. So we're very disciplined about this type of deals we want to do, this type of deals we don't want to do. And then in the ones that we want to do, really engage with the clients, understand what the client's need was, how we were going to be able to deliver that product to the client in a way that it was scalable, not by putting hundreds and hundreds of people, so using the technology stack and having certain type of clients that were in line with the transformation that the business was going through. And the client, the other thing that the last piece of the last person that I put there did, we have around 1/4 of the clients, of the big clients, that they were very unhappy with the service. They were red. So essentially, plenty of things they were doing, they were very unhappy. So we have to put money there in the old technology, in the old stack, to really improve the client experience. And that we knew that it was wasted money, because that was going to be replaced. But if we would have not done it, we will lose those clients. So we spent a lot of money and time and effort in improving the client experience of the clients that were not satisfied. And in the new ones, they really bought into the vision of what we are going to deliver. Some we are delivering now, some we will deliver in the next couple of years.
At the beginning, you were mentioning something about productivity and how to improve productivity, and I was wondering, you talk about transformation and many different aspects of your business, and what do you think would be the key factor that would help you achieve that transformation in the next couple of years?
So 2 or 3 things. First, now in addition to running the corporate investment bank, so Gordon Smith, who runs retail, and me, we are responsible for technology in the whole company. And so we run also the corporate technology, that is so the shared services that we do that is not done in each of the businesses. So one of the things that we are doing is looking at something very simple, looking at the way that we're organized and how much inefficiencies are because the organization is not right. And neither Gordon and I has any bias towards more centralization or more decentralization, because we run it all. And really, the only thing that we care is to have a vibrant, efficient technology organization. So to deliver for the clients and do all that. So we are looking at in how many cases we have things that they are too decentralized, that should be more centralized, and then avoid the waste of energy. It's not that people, they try to coordinate and all that, but if you are wasting energy coordinating with someone because the organization is not right, it may be nice, but it's still a wasted money and energy. So we are looking at organization, number one. So we have to impose by far better discipline in using standards. So meaning that if someone develops something, it has to be there, and the next one will develop on top of that, but will not develop from zero every time. And sometimes what happens in these companies is that what is off the shelf, it covers 98% of what you want, and you are willing to start from scratch to get the extra 2%. And that's ridiculous. So the discipline about using standards, the discipline about developing in a way that it will create value to the company and people will keep building into that within the platforms that we have, is a discipline that we could do better. Quality of people, we have replaced we have changed a lot of the quality of the engineers that we have, and we keep upgrading them. And really, and having good strategies. Like, I learned a lot for us about the cloud and how wrong I was about it, because I know the technology. So I saw you have this here, we run in the cloud, and then the productivity, the cost of doing the same thing will be 1/5 of what it is now. The reality is that now we've gone through the main applications and trying to develop the strategy of how we are going to use the cloud. There is not a single one of those that 100% of the application will run in the cloud, because a lot of that have a lot of back and forth of information going back and forth, that the improving cost of computing and storage gets totally overshadowed by networking cost. So we are really, and we have a good plan with that. There are all these little things over time but a lot is about discipline from the developers, and really imposing that discipline. And the other thing that I'm very focusing on is trying to find tools to understand the productivity, to understand why this group is more productive than this one. So what are doing it may be perfectly capable of both if we are imposing some bureaucracy that it can be changed, or why this group is going far from the standards, and what is the reason. We have developing tools to understand when developers develop, how far from the standards are moving when it's not necessary. All these things, you put it together, and hopefully with time we will get a lot more from the $10 billion that we spent.
Okay, we have time for one more question. We have no more time. Okay, we have no more time. Okay, Daniel, as always, a pleasure.